Living a Healthy Lifestyle show with your favorite holistic health coach, Carrie Kay.
Hey, everybody, welcome to Living a Healthy Lifestyle show with your favorite holistic health coach, Carrie Kay. And I am back with Jodi Mueller. We are on our second part series in the series, Living in the Matrix. So, yesterday we had Jodi tell her complete story, and we're just going to go where we left off. And so, we heard her story a few days ago about your children. They were apparently abducted by your ex. So can you explain you knew something wasn't adding up with the justice system after you finally got to court? Welcome to the show, Jodi.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, I had primary custody, like we talked about the other day, and after he abducted my children, they switched my custody after it was several days, like 650 days before I had court. Okay, 650 days, so about 2 years before I even saw their faces. And they switched the custody. I was shocked because I was primary custodial parent for 15 years. I didn't know what was going on. Before I even went in there, I'd met a guy that's from Iowa, and he says, when you go in there, I want you to know that you're consenting to contract. And I did not know what that meant. He says, you're probably going to lose custody because you went in there. And I just thought there was justice, and I didn't want to believe it. Literally, I was like banging on my car going, no, that's not correct. There's no way, because I'm a great mom. And I was shocked. I was shocked that that outcome took place. And there was no reason for it. So anyone can look up my custody order. It's no secret. It's untransparent. And there's nothing in there that says I shouldn't have my children. It just says the court feels like it's not a good thing for the children at this time. And what they meant was they were pretty brainwashed, so, but the real reason was the funding. And I didn't know that at the time, but there's funding behind it. And so at first I thought, for the longest time that I did something wrong, and I just couldn't wrap my mind around it. Okay. And then I found out about the funding later.
Yeah, I would like for you to explain the difference in the funding streams. For example, the Title IV monies that are made, and something that has to do with the Fatherhood Initiative funding.
Okay, so that Title IV, that's Title IV, Roman number 4. So the IV, Title IV funding, monies, and there's several. There's Title IV, there's several that I'm not even going to mention, but Title IV-A is for schooling, okay? Title IV-D is for like a divorce or custody modification. So if someone kidnaps your child, they flip the custody, something like that. So I just say D for divorce. It doesn't really stand for that, but that's a good way so you can recognize what it is, okay? So a lot of these cases are Title IV-D courts if you're in family court. CPS is Title IV-E, as in Edward. That's CPS. So when children get taken through CPS and they're nonsense, that's Title IV-E funding they get from the federal government that the courts, will receive in the counties. And then there's B. So think of the word border, okay? That's how you can associate that. Title IV-B is funding they get from Title IV-D, from taking children from law-abiding parents, or maybe they're not so law-abiding, but if they flip the custody, okay, they get the D. Then E is CPS. For those children, they get about $85,000 minimum per child. And then B, they put those together and get B. So if they take children from the border, remember back then they were saying children are in these jails or whatever, or cages, right? When they reunite these children with the parents that they grabbed at the border, that's Title IV-B. So they take our children over here with D and E, and then to reunite those folks at the border back with their kids, that money comes from the children we lost over here in the U.S. Okay, so that's Title IV-B. Now also, B can be used for FINA case. So over in the United States, Iowa in particular has this, that a lot of other states do. It's called Families in Need of Assistance, FINA. There's China cases, that's CPS or FINA. That money is also with Title IV-B. But the difference is they'll always say they're out of the money. That's to reunite you with your children if they were taken unlawfully. You go into reunification therapy with a therapist. They're supposed to reunite you with that money, but alas, they'll say they're out of money. That's what happened in my case. And I met with Chuck Grassley, the U.S. Senator, and he told me they're going to say they're out of money. And you tell him, Chuck Grassley said, it doesn't matter. If we did something unlawfully in the court system and severed your parent-child relationship, we have to give the federal funding to that program to reunite you. And it never happened. So,
Are there
yeah.
specific legislators that are instrumental in getting these fund streamings to the state?
Yes, the main one is the legislators that are on the appropriations committee. So there's legislators out there that might be on 2 committees, 3, 4, 5 committees. Okay, they might be on Ways and Means, Education Committee, but specifically the ones that are on the appropriations committee, those people are deciding where that money goes. So at the U.S. level, they decide, they give it to the state level, whether it's Iowa, Texas, Florida, doesn't matter. And then those legislators that are on that appropriations committee at the state level decides what county is going to get it. But in order to get that funding, they have to take the children. They have to flip the custody. If there's no flipping of the custody, they're out the money. So say they're appropriated $1 million, they have to come up with all these severing of families in order to get that money, or they forfeit the money. Does that make sense? So,
yeah, it sounds like you've met with specific legislators that have learned anything. Have you learned anything from what you didn't know prior to losing your children in family fraud courts?
Definitely. I actually, one thing people could do is keep an address in the state with the where the legislators are you want to speak to. I kept one in Iowa, even though I lived in Texas. I kept an Urbandale address. That enabled me to be able to actually get meetings with Chuck Grassley, who's the U.S. Senator, U.S. Rep. Steve King, and U.S. Senator Joni Ernst from Iowa, even though I lived in Texas. So I obtained those meetings with them. I brought in 4 other mothers that were sitting right there with Chuck Grassley, and he literally brought in 3 of his legislative aides, me and 4 other mothers, and another father was there. Actually, he was from Florida. His kids are being sex trafficked right now, but his is a CPS case. Me and these other mothers were strictly family court, no CPS case. And Chuck Grassley just went like this, literally, Jodi, what do you expect me to do? That's what he said. Now, he's not taking notes. His 3 legislative aides are. I said, I expect you to defund Title IV D&E, and I expect you to abolish Obama's fatherhood initiative. So Obama signed a fatherhood initiative. People are probably going to go try to look for this, and they've hidden it, okay? But it was in 2012 when he was out there campaigning, or not campaigning, I should say, but he was on the news and doing events on TV, and he said, be a stand-up dad. He kept saying that, be a stand-up dad, and saying African-American fathers leave the home. Well, the Congress or whoever put this in place said, here, Obama, let's sign this into law, and it's the Obama Fatherhood Initiative. So now when a mother goes into court and says, hey, this guy's been absent all their life and he just kidnapped my children, or this guy's been abusive, or he's sexually abusing my kids, or mentally or physically, they go ding, ding, ding. I mean, lights go off, whistles, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, oh my God, we can make money. We can make money. So the courts will say, hey, we're going to flip the custody, give them to this man, this abuser, and then we're going to get $5,000 minimum dollars from the Fatherhood Initiative that Obama signed into place. Now, narcissists usually don't take classes to be a stand-up dad or a better dad. They think they're the best. You know, it doesn't matter if it's a man or a woman. If you're a narcissist, you think you are the best. Why would you go to classes? Okay, so I'm not out here bashing fathers. I just want to be clear here. But this is in place. There's no motherhood initiative. There's only a fatherhood initiative, okay? And Obama did sign that. And I'd like to know who's behind pushing that, you know, to his desk. But maybe it started out as something good, but it turned into something bad, because great mothers like me, we didn't see our kids again, and they get $5,000 minimum for that. So they made 20,000 minimum off my 4 children to flip the custody to give to a man that was absent for 15 years. Literally, he saw these children, like I said previously, about 30 total days. And, when I sat there with Chuck Grassley, he said, there's something these things are good for. Now, Joni Ernst, I learned from her, she doesn't care. She simply does not care. She says, I will give you 60 seconds to talk after I drove 22 hours. I said, now, do you want me to split that up between the 4 children or the four like parts of Iowa? Because I'm not here just talking about my children, lady. I'm here to talk about all of them collectively around the United States. And after we talked for a while, she let her legislative aides take over. Well, she went and talked to Obama about Obama's health care, which I didn't care about. I just wanted to see my children, because this is about, your show's about healthy lifestyle. There's no healthy lifestyle here. These children are destroyed. The parents are destroyed. They're suicidal. And on my way home, I got called by FBI because I visited with Joni Ernst. Steve King, I learned from him. He said, Jodi, you find me the money trail, and I will make sure this doesn't happen again. We had another meeting with Steve King, and right after I told him what the money trail was, the Title IV-D, the Obama Fatherhood Initiative, Kevin McCarthy, who people should know, he stripped Steve King of all of his committees. Okay, so like I said earlier in your show, they all have committees. Well, if you're stripped from your committees, what good are you as a representative? So I learned a lot. And then I also learned that there was an FBI in Iowa, right? The FBI calls me. I'm like, what are you talking about? There's no FBI in Des Moines. He says, well, yeah, we're the Omaha satellite. Can you come up? I went up the next day after I driving back from DC. Now I'm in Texas, and I drove up and met with Tony Birmingham of the FBI in West Des Moines, the Omaha satellite, and sat for 4 hours in the chair with FBI, and my sister was there as a witness. We were supposed to be there 1 hour, and they just let me keep talking. There was 2 of them taking notes. But I think what I discovered, Carrie, is they just wanted to know what I knew, and I didn't know as much as I do now.
But
Yeah.
It sounds like you're getting a lot of results from speaking to the legislatures in DC and elsewhere. Is there any way a parent can put a stop to this happening to them in the future when they've never committed a crime against a child?
I would say the biggest thing, this is what I would warn people to do. I would warn people not to ever go into the courts, because the courts are not a court. Okay, they're a business. It's a place of business. They're not actually a court. The judges are not actually judges. They are administrators, okay? None of their oaths are valid. You can pull their oaths from the Secretary of State's office for $5 typically, sometimes free. Do an open records request with the Secretary of State and demand that you see the oath of office for every judge. And they're going to let the judge know that you're pulling those, okay? But that's public record. You get to have that. If they've got the word God written in all caps on their oath, it's already invalid. God is not a corporate entity. You don't put God in all caps. Sorry. Go look in the Bible. You won't see it in all caps. That's a corporation. No, God is not a corporation, okay? And I would tell people, do everything in paper. Do not go to their courts, because the minute you walk in, you are consenting to contract. And people don't know what that means. But if you raise your right hand, they say, state your name. You're not stating your living entity name. If I'm saying Jodi Mueller, they're taking notes, transcribing it as Jodi Mueller in all caps. So now I'm what's called the surety for that name. That's just not me. I'm not Kohl's or McDonald's or, U.S. government. I'm not a corporation. There's no Dun and Bradstreet number against me where you can find out, who I owe debt to and things like that. No, that's a corporation. That's not me. God created me. And for those that don't believe in God, your mom and dad created you, not the government. So I would say stay away from those courts, because they're not a court. They're a business. And they're creating bonds off every cause of action that you do. Every time you go in there, and I can't say this for certain on the amount carried, but each time you walk in, they get $3.3 million off your Sesta KB trust. And I'll spell that for you if you want, but it's CESTUI space QUE space VIE trust. So everyone has a Sesta KB trust account. That's your birth certificate. If your mom and dad got you a birth certificate, means you're deemed dead, lost at sea. And this is a way that you can offset debt with that money. but it's also what they get. Okay, what those bad actors are going to get when you go into those courts. Same thing as if you get pulled over to sign a ticket, when the cop asks for these certain identification, he's getting I've heard, and I have nothing to back this up, I'm just giving you a figure, I've heard this many times, 120,000 the minute you sign a ticket. So why would you pay the ticket twice? They're just double dipping on that money. And so I don't sign anything. I would caution anybody, do not sign. You learn the difference between a signature and an autograph. You'll never find a book that is a signature. Like an author, they put the word by in their name, always. And so there's a difference between that. Are you living or are you a corporation? If you're living, you put by. That's a living entity. No, not a signature. Anything you sign can be misconstrued as a contract, that you're agreeing to a contract. Even at a hospital, the courts, on the side of the road. And I just don't do it anymore. If you don't agree, because a contract is what you both agree. You both agree, one gives up something, the other one gives up something, right? Just like if you're hiring a roofer, he's going to use his time and you're going to pay for the roofing, and then you come to agreement with what's going to happen, what's going to take place. Otherwise, it's a breach of contract. But when you go into these courts, sometimes they're writing that order after you leave. You don't know what they're writing up. You need to have them write it up right then and there if you wish to do so. But the clerk's name has to be on it, and I guarantee you, anyone that's watching this someday, if the clerk's signature is not going to be on there. I can just tell you that right now. Their printed name has to be on it, and the signature. The clerk is higher than the judge, and I'm talking not the pencil pushers. The head clerk is higher than those judges. She absolutely is. He or she. She's higher than the judges because they're administrators. The judge's printed name has to be on that custody order, and so does their signature. Has to. It has to be wet ink, too. It can't be a stamp. If it's single-spaced, okay, that's more like a contract. But if it's double-spaced on that custody order, it's fake. That's why when you go give a custody order to a cop and your child's been kidnapped, you go, oh, my God, here, I have custody. Look, look, look. And the cop will put his hands up. Nope, you can't touch it. Because once he touches it, he knows. Those cops know that those are voided orders. Those are fake. And fraud vitiates everything, which means if there's fraud in it, none of that, it's all void. All those orders are void. Child support orders are void and actually unconstitutional. So there's ways to get around this stuff, but your name's all caps on all those, I guarantee it. Traffic ticket, it'll say state of Florida or state of Texas versus Jodi Mueller in all caps. Really? Well, where's your accuser? We have a right to see our accuser. Is the whole state of Florida coming in to this court case? Well, then what are you doing?
So how else are people consenting to the contract? You've gone over a little bit of different things.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, one, like I said, even walking in there, you're consenting. Now, if you go in ahead of time and you're handing in paperwork, I wouldn't necessarily call that consenting. Don't let them know you're coming. Give them affidavits of truth, whatever. CPS victims, for one, when the cop comes up to your door with a CPS victim, the cop's not there for your child. The cop's there to protect the CPS agent because you can actually protect your child, okay? But when these parents, they're going, oh my God, I want to look good in front of the cop that I'm a responsible parent. So I'm going to walk my child out, lock them in the seatbelt so it looks like I'm a good parent and I'm all about safety. No, you just consented to contract in a big way. You just put your child in a stranger's car. What other stranger would you give your child to? You don't never give them to a CPS agent. That's the worst stranger you could give them to. Do not ever do that. You don't even have to talk to them. You don't have to talk to them at all. You can just point, have something on your front door that says, I so-and-so, date of birth so-and-so, do not consent to contract with any corporation or agent of a corporation. You can do that. Applying for FEMA. I mean, that's consenting to contract, okay?
Yeah, I did that.
You better read on the dotted line. Let's see what else. Registering your car, getting a birth certificate for your children, applying for a marriage license. I just recently eloped. I didn't apply for anything. I did my own declaration of marriage, took it in there, and I took 2 Bibles to the minister, and ain't happening. Because once you consent in that way, the courts have jurisdiction over your stuff. Plain and simple. You get a marriage license, they can do that. So the marriage is like this. Think of a triangle, okay? And it's a man, a woman. At the top is the state. Once you apply for that marriage license, right? But at the bottom, it's like a dotted line. Think of a dotted beam, okay? That's where God is. Is God really at the bottom? Really, people? No. So you can rescission that contract and slice it in two, and you take the state out of it, and they have no jurisdiction over you. They can't tell you to pay child support. They can't tell you you're going to see your child only once a month or every other weekend. No, take the jurisdiction away and rescission that. And there's ways to do that. You can even rescission your voting ID, because your voter ID is all sorts of ways to get around it.
We only have just about 7 minutes left, and I wanted to cover whatever it is else that you wanted to talk about. I think it's very interesting, these things that we are learning now about the Treasury and about the name in all capital letters.
Yeah.
So in our future segments, we're going to be talking about that stuff.
Yeah.
Just give us a quick synopsis on that. Like I said,
Yeah.
we only have a few minutes left.
One thing I could tell people to go to, and you'd learn a lot of history, whether you're in Texas or not, because even where you are in Florida, you can actually become what's called a limited Texian, and you can be part of the Republic of Texas, okay? And every state needs to start learning how to do this and build up their own republic, which you can do that. And we can probably we've had Billy Ford, who's come out, I think, to Florida, but he's been to Jersey too, and he's teaching people how to become their own republic. So you got to know the difference between a republic and a state, right? So then you're sovereign. But Texas is a nation, and people don't know that. They think it's a state. It's still a nation. So the website, for people that want to go to that, and it shows a lot of good history, is www.therepublicoftexas1836.org. Got some good history on there, and we're hoping to have workshops sometime. Maybe we'll put them on Zoom, and we'll teach people that you can put your children in a trust. Okay, not a will. Put them in a trust before CPS comes knocking. And I didn't have a CPS case. I just want to be clear. CPS is different than family court. It's all awful, but there's all different money streams, okay? But you can put your children in a trust, and then they absolutely cannot touch those children. You can put your house in a trust, your cars, your business in a trust. If things go south in this next election, regardless of who you think is good or bad, doesn't matter. Well, if they shut down the country again, or they shut down your state, and you've got a business, you better learn how to get a PMA real quick. That's a private membership association. That's how some of those gyms stayed open. That's how some restaurants stayed open. That's how Sam's Club stayed open. Sam's Club has a PMA, the biggest one, right? So if you go in and say, I want to go to get my nails done, and they're saying, no, they won't let you in because of the mask, or you got to take a jab, or you got to get something embedded in your arm, and you got to do the whole, taking bad stuff that you don't want to do. The guy can be standing at the door and saying, hey, but we're a PMA. Would you like to be a member? Here, we're just asking you to pay $1. Okay, then you pay the $1 and you come on in. You don't have to go by what those statutes and codes are down in Austin or Florida or whatever, right? So we can teach people that, how to get a PMA, and maybe get some resources. I can try to find some resources for you where people can go, because it's not just Texas. This is everywhere. But there's all different things that we can start teaching people. Main thing right now, to be safe, make sure you don't have to consent to contract with these cops. Learn what a police officer is versus a sheriff. Police are about policy. They're about statutes and codes. Sheriff's about the law. So there's two of everything, okay? And so there's like state of Texas and Texas. State of Florida or Florida. One's a territory, one's a corporation, all right? There's a Jodi Mueller in all caps and Jodi Mueller in lowercase or sentence case. One's a living woman, one is a corporate dead entity. And you got to learn that. Quit consenting to contracts so easily. You don't have to sign. Like my dad always told me, there's two things you have to do in life. And I was like, what is that? He would have loved this information, but he died too soon. He says, you just have to be white and die. So when someone says you have to do something, think about it real quick. Do I have to? Like if they come to your house, FEMA's knocking on the door, you have to apply. Do you? Do you have to? No, you don't. you can do other things.
Well, I
There might
love
be
the
another.
fact that you've done all your research to help people, and I cannot wait for more series on these
Yeah.
things until part 3 of Living in the Matrix, where Jodi and I will get together and go over more stuff. So take
Yeah.
notes, and you can also
And start
subscribe
flying
to
this flag. Start flying this.
Fly the Flag,
This
and
is
you
the
can also
American civil. That's the American Civil Peace flag. So here's the difference. Do you see the stripes are vertical? That's the blood of Jesus to us. The white background is God's hands holding
I
the state
love
of the
that.
union.
I love that.
And the Coast Guard used this for a while. They had their emblem out here. So yeah, you want to stay free if the military comes to your home. If you have this hanging up, they're not supposed to be breaking in your home and setting up camp. That's a good thing to have.
Really? Well,
Yeah.
you'll have to tell us how to get one of those flags, Jodi.
And take your welcome mats away from your door right now. Do not have a welcome mat in front of your door right now. Things are going to
Don't.
get bad. Do not put home sweet home. Do not put welcome. You better
Yeah.
believe those cops can come in without a warrant. You better believe it. Take it away. Throw that away now. That's the last thing I'll say. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for all your information, Jodi. I look forward to all the information that we will get to all the people out there. And we're going to be doing a lot of these series. And we're also on Rumble. So you need to subscribe to Living a Healthy Lifestyle Show and subscribe to YouTube. And we will not have any of this on Facebook, but we will be on YouTube and Rumble. So thanks a lot, Jodi, and look forward to seeing you on Living in the Matrix next time.
Thank
God
you.
bless.
Thank you.